You're sitting at the very top of a roller coaster. The car hasn't dropped yet. You haven't even started moving downward. And somehow, your stomach already feels like it's floating, sinking, doing something it has no business doing before gravity has touched you at all. That sensation isn't your imagination getting ahead of itself. It's a real physical event happening inside your body, triggered before the actual fall even begins. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly which organ is responsible, why it reacts early, and why some people feel it far more intensely than others. Let's start with what's actually inside you causing this. Deep in your inner ear sits a small, fluid-filled structure called the vestibular system, made up of tiny canals and chambers that constantly track your head's position, movement, and acceleration. Specifically, a part of it called the otolith organs contains tiny calcium crystals resting on a bed of sensitive hair cells. When your head accelerates in any direction, including straight down, those crystals shift slightly, bending the hair cells beneath them and sending an immediate signal to your brain. Something about your motion has changed. Here's the part that explains the early stomach drop. Your vestibular system reacts to acceleration, the rate at which your speed changes, not to speed itself. At the very top of a roller coaster, right as the car tips over the peak, your body experiences a sudden shift from feeling the normal push of gravity to a brief moment of near weightlessness because the car begins accelerating downward, roughly as fast as gravity would pull you anyway. Your inner ear detects this shift in acceleration essentially instantly, faster than your conscious mind can process what's visually happening. So the before you even fall feeling isn't really before the fall. Your body has already begun falling, or is about to, and your vestibular system picks up on that change in force faster than your eyes and thinking brain can catch up and confirm it. So why does this show up as a stomach sensation specifically, rather than, say, a feeling in your feet or your hands? This is where things get genuinely interesting. Your internal organs, including your stomach and intestines, are held in place inside your abdominal cavity by a flexible web of connective tissue called mesentery, along with surrounding muscle. They're not rigidly fixed. During that sudden shift into near weightlessness at the top of a drop, your organs briefly experience less resistance holding them in their usual position, and they can shift slightly, floating upward relative to the rest of your body for a fraction of a second before gravity and your abdominal muscles catch back up and resettle everything. Researchers studying this describe it as a genuinely real mechanical event, not a purely psychological or imagined one. Your stomach isn't lying to you. It's actually moving just slightly inside your body. Combine that with your vestibular system firing off an urgent something has changed signal to your brain, and you get the distinctive full body sensation people describe as their stomach dropping. A real mechanical shift in your internal organs paired with a rapid neurological alarm about sudden acceleration change arriving at your conscious awareness within a fraction of a second of the actual physical event. Interestingly, this same mechanism explains a related sensation many people notice in elevators, particularly fast ones in tall buildings. The brief floating feeling when an elevator suddenly accelerates downward is caused by an almost identical process, a momentary shift toward weightlessness. Your vestibular system registering the acceleration change immediately, and your internal organs settling slightly differently for a fraction of a second. It's a much gentler version of the same roller coaster sensation, which is part of why elevator engineers deliberately limit how quickly elevators accelerate. Too abrupt a change, and passengers would feel the same stomach drop sensation on every single ride. Here's something that should genuinely surprise you. This entire system exists for a very old evolutionary reason that has nothing to do with amusement parks. Your vestibular system evolved to help you keep your balance and detect dangerous falls long before you ever needed it for entertainment. A sudden, unexpected feeling of falling was, for nearly your entire evolutionary history, an emergency signal, an indication that you'd lost your footing on a cliff edge, a tree branch, uneven terrain, and needed an immediate reflexive response to protect yourself. Modern roller coasters essentially trick this ancient warning system into firing under completely safe, engineered conditions. Your inner ear can't tell the difference between the actual danger your ancestors evolved to detect and a carefully designed thrill ride that mimics the exact same acceleration pattern for entertainment. This also explains why some people find roller coasters thrilling, while others find them genuinely nauseating or distressing. And it comes down to a phenomenon called sensory conflict. Your brain doesn't just rely on your vestibular system to understand motion. It also uses visual information from your eyes and proprioceptive information from your muscles and joints, and normally these three systems agree with each other closely. On a roller coaster, they often don't. Your inner ear insists you're falling and accelerating rapidly. Your eyes might be looking at a relatively stable interior of the car, or catching disorienting flashes of sky and track. Your muscles feel the pressure of the harness and seat. When these signals conflict sharply enough, some researchers believe your brain, following an old evolutionary logic, interprets the mismatch as a possible sign of poisoning or toxin exposure, since certain neurotoxins historically disrupted sensory systems in exactly this contradictory way. That theory helps explain why intense sensory conflict frequently produces nausea as a defensive response, essentially your body preparing to purge a substance that might be interfering with your senses, even when the real cause is nothing more dangerous than a fairground ride. For thrill seekers, however, that same rush of vestibular signaling, combined with a rapid stress hormone response, adrenaline and cortisol, both spike sharply during the moment of a drop, produces something closer to excitement than distress. Your body is technically running the same emergency biological program either way. The difference in how enjoyable or awful that program feels often comes down to context, individual sensitivity in the vestibular system, and how strongly a person's brain interprets the situation as genuinely safe rather than genuinely threatening, even while your ancient inner ear insists otherwise. For thrill seekers, however, that same rush of vestibular signaling, combined with a rapid stress hormone response, adrenaline and cortisol, both spike sharply during the moment of a drop, produces something closer to excitement than distress. Your body is technically running the same emergency biological program either way. The difference in how enjoyable or awful that program feels often comes down to context, individual sensitivity in the vestibular system, and how strongly a person's brain interprets the situation as genuinely safe rather than genuinely threatening, even while your ancient inner ear insists otherwise. Researchers studying individual differences in motion sensitivity have found that vestibular sensitivity varies significantly from person to person, and some of that variation appears to be present from early in life. Children on average tend to tolerate spinning, dropping, and rapid rotation better than adults. One reason playground equipment like merry-go-rounds and tall slides rarely bothers young children the way similar motion might unsettle an adult riding a roller coaster for the first time in years. As people age, some studies suggest the vestibular system's tolerance for sudden acceleration changes gradually shifts, which may partly explain why roller coasters that felt thrilling in childhood can feel considerably more overwhelming decades later, even though the ride itself hasn't changed at all. So the next time you're strapped into the front seat, creeping toward the top of a drop, and you feel that unmistakable stomach-sinking sensation before the fall has even technically started, you'll know exactly what's happening beneath the surface. Your inner ear has already detected the shift in acceleration. Your organs have already begun to move, however slightly, inside your body. And an ancient warning system, built across millions of years to protect you from genuine falls, is firing exactly as designed, just a fraction of a second ahead of your conscious mind, in response to a drop your engineers built entirely on purpose.